All right, let's take a closer look now at today's meetings. Isaac Cohen, President and CEO of Inverway, joins me now in studio. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Michelle.
So as we know, about 120 firms and industry groups are scheduled to testify over the course of these hearings. What are your overall impressions about the size and the scope of these hearings?
Well, I think that they are giving voice to certain interests that are going to be severely affected by these measures. And I think it's important to hear from them because they are coming from states where depend a lot, from trade with China particularly. So I think it's very important to hear them out, and so that the administration has an opportunity to discover, if I may say it that way, the fact that some of these people come from states that President Trump won very easily during the election, and that they're going to be affected precisely by these measures.
Now, ahead of these hearings, though, we did hear from a lot of trade organizations saying we don't want these tariffs, this isn't the way to go. So what do you think these hearings add in terms of a dimension of putting pressure on the president?
Well, I think they will, and the important thing is that there are conversations going on between both governments, and the fact is that those within the administration that favor coming to an agreement with China need support, because there is a faction within the administration that is sponsoring these measures. The administration is divided really between both positions, and those that support an agreement with China in order to settle this difference on a negotiated basis need support. So I think it's very important for them to come out.
So for people who are saying the USTR has already made up its mind and this is sort of just an exercise to get some voices out there, is there really a chance for the USTR to change its mind on this?
Well, the USTR, has a vision based on legal aspects. And I think that's one position. But there is also the economic perspective, which is brought in by the Secretary of the Treasury, by the head of the National Economic Council, and they will provide, a wider vision of the problem.
And so for people who are coming up with their arguments both for and against, what are the most compelling arguments in favor and against the tariffs?
I think that the basic, most compelling argument is that both sides will lose with this. This kind of confrontation leads to tremendous losses for consumers particularly, and of course producers of these strategic goods. So the realization that both are going to lose perhaps will help those in the administration that are interested in coming to an agreement.
So then what would a potential alternative be? Because obviously these US companies are saying we're going to end up losing jobs, which is the whole point of this, was to make it, more jobs for the US. What would be an alternative to that then?
Well, I think that the idea of going to the WTO is one possibility. The other possibility is to increase the opening of both economies, mutual opening, in order for the US providers to sell much more in China and Chinese exporters to sell more in the United States.
And we could potentially see that. We saw that just this week, President Trump has potentially reversed his decision on ZTE, a Chinese telecom company that could essentially have gone out of business. And we also have China's top economic advisor, Liu He, coming for trade talks. What's your take on the timing of all these developments?
Well, I think that the visit from the Deputy Prime Minister of China, I think it's very important because it means that the dialogue continues. We had the Secretary of the Treasury, the USTR representative going to China last week. So now the Deputy Prime Minister is coming over. So that means that the dialogue continues, and that is very important.
And given what we've seen so far, how optimistic are you that things will start to ease, given what we're seeing?
Well, I hope we're not going to get to the end of this in the sense that both countries are going to impose restrictive measures to each other. I think we're going to have a settlement before that happens.
All right. Thank you so much. Isaac Cohen, there, President and CEO of Inverway.